And with that, I believe we are live. Good evening, everybody. Up close and personal again. It's been a minute since we've done some like live stuff, some live build at the table here. So it's a cold one kind of night. This is a pretty relaxed stream because I realized I'm not going to be able to stream tomorrow because I am leaving for Jersey because of Christmas related stuff. So I'm kind of getting Christmas stuff the end of this week, and I just kind of wanted to pop in with some craft-release stuff. Good evening, Melvin. Sorry, by the way, I had meant to put out the things today, but it just didn't happen because of insanity with packing. So I'm hoping to get those out tomorrow, but I also got to get my Secret Santa stuff out the door and finishing the commissions. And also, like, I'm starting a new job supposedly next week, so we're gonna see how quickly all this goes. But I really wanted to do some D&D crafting today. I am getting ready to run Curse of STRAHD. So for anybody out there who's hoping to play Curse of STRAHD at some point, please click away because I'll be chatting up about Curse of STRAHD a lot tonight. I've never run a module this big before. I'm very excited to. So I've been revamping all of my terrain, and I also thought it would be really cool. So for those of you who don't know, there's a very important card reading at the beginning of Curse of STRAHD, wherein, actually I've got the deck here, wherein you use these fun, I think it's supposed to be pronounced tarot, but it's spelled Tarokka. So I have been pronouncing it Tarokka. Tarokka cards, and you do a reading of the cards, and that reading dictates a bunch of different stuff, like your fated ally and things. And 3 of these things are props. They're things for the players to uncover and grab. So I thought it'd be really cool to make some of that stuff, so that when they find it, and it can have some heft and some significance, they can find and they can hold on to these props, which is always a really fun way to take things just a bit further, I think. I don't plan on making too many specific items for this game, but I have been trying to revamp some of my terrain game. To wit, I cannibalized one of my battle maps and made this turntable that now has its dry erase on the top here. So it's a fully gridded turntable with dry erase, so you can map it out if you want, or you can doodle stuff on there. Like I need to doodle walls maybe, but there's still like a column in the corner, and it's all very clear and nice. But then for when we're not feeling the, shall we say, we're not feeling the dry erase, I've actually been working on this a bit, like just a little bit today. We got this cool stone grid. So if we're running out of stuff to do tonight before 7, we can definitely do some painting on this guy. This is just some XPS foam and a little bit of like dollar store foam board, but it's just a thing to go on top of this so that it can also be part of the same dealio there. And I really like the way both of this looks and functions, so really quite happy with the way things have been going lately. I've been prepping lots of encounters, and yeah, like I said, my hope here is to do a little bit of work on, well, specifically tonight, I'd like to work on the Sun Sword Hilt. It's a weapon of renown that can harm Strahd, supposedly. So I'm looking to try and make up my own version of this. I found some really interesting images online, and we're specifically making the hilt, not the full blade, because the full blade is sort of described as being like the sun, so it doesn't make a ton of sense for me to try and make an actual blade that is just, the sun. But instead, I thought we could start, kind of map out a fun template, and, in many ways it'll be sort of like the shard, the hilt of Narsil that I made some time ago. But we're going to go in a very different artistic direction. So to that end, it's often rendered as like a single-handed sword, but I'm thinking I might want to make it about closer to like a hand and a half. For those of you who don't do sword stuff, it's worth noting that, you know, some swords are two-handed swords, some swords are single-handed swords. And I don't think a sword with a saber, a blade made of light makes a ton of sense to be, say, a Zweihander, like a two-handed sword. And it's worth noting that just from a historical perspective, like, the Zweihander gained popularity well after the Middle Ages, I believe. So it's not necessarily the most accurate thing to have in the middle of our game anyway. So instead, I'm thinking a little bigger than a single-handed sword, because I don't want it to feel really dainty. So I'm thinking like a hand and a half, like a bastard sword. So that'll be, so instead of the grip being very, very keen for one hand, we're probably going to do about boom and about to the mid knuckle on my other hand. So to that end, we can just start doodling. I've pulled up some reference images behind me here, so I'm just going to kind of start my doodling, and you know what, so that you kids at home can see a little better, I'm actually going to doodle in big old Sharpie. It is, the one I'm looking at that I like a lot is symmetrical. So we're actually going to fold this, we're just going to fold this right in half and sort of doodle up one side. I might start in pen, actually. Sorry, everybody. Might start, well, we could probably zoom in a little bit. Let's see. Does this, yeah, zoom in a little bit. We can kind of try to doodle a doodle on screen here. Y'all can let me know if I stray off screen a bit. But the sketch that I'm looking at has a really neat design by Screen Owl, and I like. It's got not just the hilt of it isn't just like out; it's kind of up, and it's got some imagery that I would describe as sort of like a bursting sun, like a sunburst, which is really neat. So let's doodle. Oh, hello. There we go. Never be afraid to show your pens who's boss. There we go. Let's see here, something like that. Yeah, with a little bit of this. Let's find a circle. For those of you who have never seen me on this channel before, I hate drafting circles. I actually find it's much more inspiring when I can just find a thing that I think is about the size of the circle that I want, and trace that. So that's just me. And I get that doesn't always make a ton of sense, but I do enjoy it. I'm thinking, yeah, we go straight out like this, and straight out like this, and between these 2 points is sort of a curve. So we can adjust that in a moment here, and then there's another bit essentially just like this. That sort of meets the bottom here. Do the same dealio. Doop-a-doop-a-doop. That's the sound a sword makes, right? Doop-a-doop-a-doop. Lord. How is everybody doing this Wednesday? It's a crazy time of year. It's the holidays. I'm having a good time so far. Let's see here. Yeah, that looks about right. And then the one I'm looking at, it gets really thin, actually, right at the top. And I don't know how to feel about that, because it sort of just comes straight down like this, and then joins a fairly meaty handle. With a little bit of a bevel. And I think I'm actually going to need to make that a bit thicker. At least where the handle starts, at the very least. Because otherwise this is going to get very, very awkward. So let's see, about hand and a half comes about right here. So from about there to about there, we're going to want to make sort of a tapered handle. And it tapers sort of out. So the flare at the bottom suggests that this handle is really only good for leverage near the bottom. Because otherwise you're just going to kind of have a tough time gripping it. Firmly grasping it. And then it just sort of has a bowed sort of bottom cap piece. And this one has like a knob in the end of it, as though to like hang. I don't know if I'm in love with that, because that suggests to me that like the sword is designed to just be a hilt, and I don't necessarily love that. I like the idea that it was once a blade, but is no longer like truly a blade. So instead of like a loop at the bottom, why don't we? I'm seeing some other art here that I think works a little better for me. Sort of like a like a coffin header sort of piece. I don't know. We can do. This is gonna have to be built essentially separately, this bottom piece, so we can definitely go through and do some rework on that. But I think something like this, we've got sort of an angled, bit like a beveled pommel piece. Yeah, to kind of like continue the swoop of it, if that makes sense. Yeah, something like that. So that's about the size of how I want it to feel. I think what we might end up doing is just actually scooting this piece down, and then I want just like a little bit of broken blade, the same way I did Narseal. So let's cut this out. Let's cut this out as is and see how we're feeling about it. Where are my good scissors? Good lord. I see my teeny tiny detail scissors, but oh well, that's okay. We'll make do with more primitive technologies, eh? Let's see here. Boom boom. Oh, there's no place like home for the holidays, 'cause no matter how far away you roam, if you pine for the sunshine of a friendly face, for the holidays you can't beat home, sweet home. I met a man who lived in Tennessee, and he was heading for Pennsylvania and some homemade pumpkin pie. From Pennsylvania, folks are traveling down to Dixie's sunny shore. From Atlantic to Pacific, gee, the traffic is terrific. Oh, there's no place like home for the holiday, 'cause no matter how far away you roam, if you want to be happy in a million ways, for the holidays you can't beat home, sweet home. Here we go. Doop, doop, doop. Trying to just sort of get in there, get the total base shape of this gem in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to build up, there's sort of like a burst shape near the top. I'm almost wondering if I should, I'm going to cut the sort of half circle out of this top piece. And then maybe I use that as a guide to sort of reshape this bottom one so that it's evenish, and then it's got sort of a morning star thing going on. Oh yeah, wow, they were drastically different. Holy cow. Way more drastically different than I would have thought, frankly. Anybody got any fun prop or cosplay stuff on their wish list? I know I've definitely got some D&D stuff this year. Let's see here. Opening this up a bit. I like how without any sort of like flair to the hilt, it does just kind of look like a stupid child's wand, just like bonk. Uh, that's really funny to me. I really like the handle. I think this is the right size to make it feel big, like it belongs in the hands of someone who's actually like physically larger than life. So I do think that we're on the right track here. Now what we need to do, I think I do want to scoot this piece right here. I want to scoot that down a little bit, just a little bit. Maybe I just fill this in. Maybe we just fill this in fully, because I'm not in love with the weird central taper that then turns into sort of a big bulb at the top. It's not what I'm here for. I'm not excited about it. Let's try. Yeah, I'm just gonna wing it here. I'm actually just gonna fill it in with tape, straight up. So let's take a little bit of tape here, and we'll fill it in on the back first, and then I'll take a little piece of tape, fill it in on the front, and make sure that we don't miss any of our detail lines there. Because I think that would be the biggest tragedy, frankly. Yeah, we'll have a little bit of trimming to do. That's all right. Good news is we didn't add so much tape that I can't see these lines anymore, which is the best part, frankly. But then, yeah, so we'll just kind of build that up here. And then, I don't know, maybe we add sort of an angle in the middle. Something kind of like what we had. But just some detail to vary the shape, not necessarily to actually thin the handle up anymore. I think that would be a mistake. I like this. I like that. Still not sold on the pommel, but that's okay. Let's grab another piece of paper real quick. And just because I'm probably going to have to either, you know what, I'll fold it in half, and we'll do it this way. I'm going to sort of template it in a separate space so that I can do this without fully manipulating the handle around. Lord. Okay, so let's... I'm just going to temporarily tack this piece of paper down with a piece of tape. Here we go. Okay, so some of the photos I'm seeing show like wings, but I wasn't really into the wings. Like I said, I was more into the idea of like a sunburst, and this design really worked for me. I'm gonna try and make sure that I make it big enough that it continues to work for me. So let's grab just a straight edge here so we can make our fathers proud, right? Here we go. Kind of build it. It's not like perfectly even with anything either. It's just kind of a straight jut. Ba-bow. Wapow. Here, I'll kind of doodle on where it meets the rest of this. Pooh! Alright. Yep, there's the rest of the hilt here. Okay. And then this had sort of a swoop up. Like a vague swoop up. And actually, I think if we sort of let it bump like this, that'll give it more of that natural sort of like sunburst curl to it. We'll do the same thing right here. And hook it under to create sort of the first upward furl. Like that. And then underneath it is one that sort of points out more, just based on the design I'm working from. We'll see if I've overshot it, if I've overdone it here. See, it's got this energy of it sort of bursting forward is part of what I really love about it. So I'm not trying I'm not trying to hold back, if that makes sense. Okay, and then it has one more piece sort of upwards here. Ba-bump. But then it hooks back down pretty righteously. With a big sort of bump at the bottom. And then from this sort of the blade just sort of being between here and both there. Then we'll just send this upward as sort of a broken thing that we can decide in a moment. Okay. I'm liking it so far. I actually think it's pretty on par. It's dainty, but it's big. So there's a heft to it that I enjoy. Oh, I'm seeing I've made a bit of a goof. The way that they have their design pressed up, this bump actually comes all the way down to here. So this is all kind of a little bit small, actually. So now if okay, so I may want to readjust this just ever so slightly. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually just cover it up gingerly with this piece of painter's tape. So that we can sort of doodle over it and see where we actually want this to go and end a little bit. All in the name of continuing to add some heft to this build. Let's try that. Yeah, I'll give that a little bit more hook, a little more flair, a little more juice. Yeah, that speaks to me. I like that. Okay, sweet. So then I'm going to detach this from here. Actually, let's doodle it all the way down to here, basically, so that we can sort of assess where it sits with everything else. But then what we've got is essentially the upper part of this. I'm going to do something just so that I get these folds a little more correct, which is I'm going to cut away the top just a little bit, and I'm going to take a little piece of tape and tape it to the other side so that it wants to stay aligned, as it were, as I do this mirror fold to get a symmetrical pattern. So let's do this. Start at the top. It doesn't really matter how the shape of the very top of this blade looks, because of course that's not what it's going to look like. We're going to add some shape in a moment to it. Okay. Sweet. Okay, let's go down into here. Now, could we go through and do something like a 3D print for this? Of course we could. But, why do that when we've got all this luxurious scrap foam lying around, right? Better put it to good use. Oh, come and see the opening band. Now that you've got your tickets and beverages in hand, they look so tired, sound uninspired, guitars are second hand, 'cause no one likes the opening band. Nobody likes the opening band. And their set time's way too early, and I've never heard of them. And chances are they won't go far, career is sure to end, 'cause no one likes an opening band. Oh, unfamiliar things will make us nervous, but singing here for you gives me a purpose. So take pity on the opening band, 'cause no one came to see them except their mom and dad. But if you lend an ear and give them just one little chance, you may just like the, you may just like the, you may just like the opening band. There we go. There we go. Whoop! That was very close. Okay, so here's what I got now. So now the final profile of this hilt, more or less, is going to be this. And I think that looks pretty cool. I think I need to rework the pommel, but this works for me. I like this. I'm feeling like I should just take 2 seconds of my time to just sculpt out what the actual broken piece of this blade looks like. So I'm actually just gonna settle this back together here like this. Yes, there we go. So let's see. I'm trying to find. Let's see. What is a little sheared off blade look like? Something like this. Something like try and break it across the. Let's see here. Yeah, that more or less here. Somewhere in the neighborhood of that. I think that's too round right there. That's too sharp. Sweet. Okay, there we go. I think I got this here. So we'll just kind of lop this off here. And, you know, who knows? When we hit the foam here, it's entirely possible that I will totally hate the way that this blade is lopped at the top and, you know, adjusted on the fly. I'm allowed. Dang nabbit, it's for my game. Yeah, I like this a little better now. There we go. Yeah, I like that generally. Looks like it really snapped there. Which is exactly what I was hoping it would do. And this actually does make some sense now, because I would essentially make this a centerpiece out of like maybe 2 pieces of 6mm, and then do another piece of this stuff sort of overlaid on the top. And then we can actually do the handle completely separately. And just like that, we've got a pretty detailed pattern. The only thing I'm not in love with right now is the pommel. What to do. This is such a tricky thing, because you know, there's a lot of different directions we could go. Like we could go with Zarovich family crest. That would kind of make sense. Oh boy, is that complicated. Oof, that is just rough, my dude. But it does kind of give me an idea for the bottom. Especially with all these points at the top. I mean, this big piece here doesn't make a ton of sense. I think if we chose to say... Oop, let's fold this back over. If we chose to say round this guy up to here and keep him off there. And let's chop this off here. Like that. Okay, so I still like the shape of this handle, but I think we can go maybe one step further with all this extra folded paper, eh? Let's see. Here's where that meets here. Awesome. It's just that simple. And I'm seeing some shapes in the crest that we could probably mimic if we so chose here. Actually go for like more of those points. See, this is kind of what's on the top of the Zarovich family crest here. And I feel that sort of mimics this shape here. The key, I think, would be to keep it pretty slim. Like if we did this, but we actually, it all tapers from like here. Do. And I think that could really work. But would this be too pointy on the bottom? Maybe. I mean, I can always blunt it on the edge, but still keep those details. I think that's what I'm gonna go with here. So, like I said, this was always kind of gonna get just tacked right onto the end, so this can be its own piece. I'm comfortable with that. Here we go. Okay. So now with all my fiddly little pieces of paper, we've got the pommel, we've got the handle itself, we've got the base layer of the upper deck, as it were, and then the add-on right there that we would probably continue to cut up a little bit further. But I think that pretty well, that pretty well sorts it here. I really like the way this looks. I think we could probably start going through and add it, because I don't plan on necessarily doing a ton to reinforce the center. I might take a little piece of wood dowel and put it through here and maybe just leave a little bit sticking out so we can actually just kind of cram those two together, but it's less for structure and more for convenience. To that end, let's see, I've got a little garbage here. Let's get rid of some of this scrap. And we'll kind of dig into our foam bin, pull out some pieces that we can use to start building this up. Let's see, I've got... there's a little bit left on this roll here. It's a little wonky, but I'm okay with that, I think. I'm thinking we do three pieces of this. And I tell you why. We can actually separate this piece in the middle for the third piece. And instead of like carving out a groove for a little wood dowel, we can just leave space for it. So in that way, we don't really need to do a ton of extra work. Which would be just so nice. So let's take this weird little strip of edge, and we can give it new life as the Sun Sword Hilt. And it is symmetrical, so hypothetically, we should be able to just trace it the thrice times, and that should be good. Let's see here. I tell you what I really need to do is pick up some more contact cement. The contact cement I have right now is super gummy. It's just gotten old on me. The lid has been a little bit cracked open for a little too long. There we go. Let's take just a little bit of time here. And we can cut out some pieces. And I think, you know, we might choose to cut out the handle. And just take a little bit of cosplay ASMR time there. Enjoying cutting out the handle. But then why don't we round out the evening doing some coding on some terrain. I think that would be very fun. And then next week I can, you know, kind of round out some terrain stuff with you guys and continue work on this sword. I think that'll be really fun. Let's go ahead and grab our cutting mat. Just the grossest cutting mat known to man. Alrighty. Big dealio when we're talking about layering pieces together. We really... Ooh, I should zoom back out. I think this is where we wanted it. Ooh, let's double check. See if I have revealed my messy shop. Only a little. Let's zoom back in a little bit. Remember, it's really important when we're talking about layering pieces together that we keep our cuts as straight up and down, as perpendicular with the table as we possibly can. So to that end, lock our blade up and let's do it. Oh, here we go. Sweet. Got sort of the lip of the end of it right here. And I'll just sort of notch this edge in there. Amazing. And then we'll sort of rock the blade back into that corner to get the very fine notched edge there. Nice and clean. Super easy to do. And I'm noticing there's actually a little air bubble in this sheet of foam. So, like, let it be known that it happens to even, like, the most top quality foam. There's going to be air bubbles. This is HD foam by SKS Props. It's some of the nicest stuff you can get, and it still has, you know, there are imperfections. Not nearly as many, but, it does still happen. So just be prepared to deal with that. What I'll probably wind up doing here is I'll essentially either make that one the middle one or the bottom one so that that's just completely covered up. Let's see here. There we go. Nice. Okay, I really like the way this is coming out already. And I don't know, something about 3 layers of foam just kind of abutted together here. I think it's going to have some decent heft in terms of, like, the feel of holding it. I'm really excited about that, frankly. Hey, Joshua, how you doing? We are working on, I don't know how into D&D some of you other folks are, but we are working on some props for my upcoming Curse of STRAHD campaign. I'm currently working on the Sun Sword Hilt. So we're going to have some custom props to be able to hand out to our players, which is also, especially when we're talking about big, important stuff, and big important stuff in a D&D campaign, it can be really useful for somebody to actually physically be the one holding it, so that it's very clear who has it, you know, especially if we're talking about, like, MacGuffin level stuff. Just getting off work, waiting for my wife to come give me a happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, Home Slice. Glad you could chill out with us. We are just chillaxing on those chill D&D vibes. Actually, after we cut this bit out, I was going to digress from working on the sword hilt here to do some coding on some terrain. So we're kind of running the gamut on D&D stuff tonight as far as crafting goes. The only thing we won't be doing tonight is painting some actual miniature characters, because I would need to greatly change up the setup, I think, to do that at all effectively on stream. We'd have to get real in here, I think. I've got a jib for it, though. We could do that. I don't know. Is that something you guys want to see? Here we go. So now we got... Oh, those turned out really nice. Yeah, fit on that is pretty great. It's not 100% perfect, but that's okay, because obviously we're going to have to sand this down and round it out anyways. But that is about the size for just like a good meaty hold of it, frankly. So I'm pretty happy with this. This is, I think, the sort of the litmus test as to whether or not this is going to be a comfy prop, like a cool prop to have. So that's really exciting. Oh, for anybody who didn't see it before, though, we do have the sort of full profile of the sword worked out. Or the sword handle, the broken sword handle. So this looks pretty cool. I'm going to reduce the scrap down here. And then I should grab a bowl and we can mix up some sealant for our terrain, and we can kind of just vibe out for the rest of the time here. Forgive me. So this is what we're working on here. It's a board that'll sort of cover a lazy Susan for some terrain. And this grid was sort of etched in by me using my wood burner. I've used it before on cosplay stuff, but I've never really explored using it for terrain and like XPS foam. But I have to say, it's a really unique look, and it has a very sculpted feel to it that just like hand etching and sanding lines doesn't quite achieve. So I'm pretty happy with this. Let's grab... Oh, I've got a bowl right here. Got a bowl. I've got a brush. Yes, excellent. And then we'll just grab some black paint, as well as some Mod Podge. Get some Mod Podge, some black paint, really mix it up, have a good time. Where's my big bottle of black paint? I could have sworn I still... Oh, it's right here. Yeah, that's just me, though. There we go. So this is Flow Acrylic. You can get it at Michael's. I really like their stuff. It's not the most high quality of paint, but it is a really big bottle for the price. I want to say when I got it, it was like maybe $8 for that bottle. But the trade-off is that it's also a little thinner than a lot of the other craft paints. So you don't necessarily always have to add a bunch of water to it to make it feel really tidy. Now, I'm mixing it with this big brush here, but that might actually be a mistake, because I should actually go through and do this with a foam brush, because I find it tends to reduce streak lines when I'm doing this stuff. But before I even do that, I should actually take 2 seconds, just give a light sand to the top. Give me 2 seconds, folks. Take that. Go. Awesome. Here we go. We'll just take, this is like 400 grit, very mild. And of course, it's just the worst sound on earth. But this ever so gently knocks back the like factory finish edge, which isn't, it's only semi-permeable, and actually gives us like a permeable surface to like bite into. Okay, let's see, is there a foam brush over here? Bonk. Yeah, it's one right here, I got one. Awesome, so we'll just dip into this. This is just like 50-50-ish Mod Podge and black acrylic paint, and we're just gonna take it and really try to work it into all these areas. I've actually got some water over here. Try to use a little bit of the water to speed this up. So that way it'll actually sort of dip down into all those grooves. Because this first coat really isn't about coverage so much as it is about getting into all the grooves, which is far more important when we're talking about a base coat and sealant. because we really want to make sure that we're not missing any surface area, which is also part of the reason that a traditional, like, bristle brush isn't necessarily the best option for something like this, because I want to be able to kind of, like, squish the paint in. Honestly, if they made brushes like this that I felt were more, like, structured, that daubed like this, I would probably do it that way, but the ones that do that are really, really finicky. I've broken several of them trying to do this, which is unfortunate. Look at that, though. Yeah. And trying to kind of work the paint away from these sections so it also doesn't pool up. And again, that very light sanding of the surface, for those of you who enjoy making terrain, this very nice sanding of the surface actually helps prevent streak lines, or at least like built up streak line brush strokes, at least on a first pass, because it lets more of it soak in, and so that, you know, leaves less on top to just sort of sit there. There we go. Because it's worth noting that, like, when we're painting, there's the appearance of brush strokes and streakiness, which is usually not enough coverage. And then there's, like, actual physical brush strokes that you can see, you know. Like, oil painting has, like, a lot of built-up texture. And that's something I'm kind of avoiding here, doing this. It's worth noting I haven't gone through and done, like, stone texture on this yet. But that's partially because I actually like to try and make sure that I coat this before I do that. Just the initial coat, mind you, not full paint. I wouldn't recommend I wouldn't recommend trying to do the full paint job and then go back and add texture. That feels like a weird order of operations there. LOL. Oh, father dear, and I oft times hear you speak of Erin's Isle. Her lofty scenes, her valleys green, her mountains rude and wild. They say it is a princely land, wherein the king might dwell. So why did you abandon it? The reason to me tell. Oh, son, I love my native land with energy and pride, until a blight came o'er our crops, the sheep and cattle died. The rent and taxes were to pay, and I could not them redeem, and that's the cruel reason I left old Skibbereen. And you were only 2 years old, and feeble was your frame. I could not leave you with my friends, for you bore your father's name. I wrapped you in a blanket at the dead of night unseen. I heaved a sigh, and we bade goodbye to dear old Skibbereen. I can never remember the end of the song. Because the final verse is a banger. Let's see here. Oh, father dear, the day will come when in answer to the call, all Irishmen of freedom stern will rally one and all. I'll be the man to lead the band beneath the flag of green, and loud and clear we'll raise that cheer, revenge for Skibbereen. Looking good. The thing I'm really excited about for this is how textured these stones are already, like how raised they are. I don't think any of my other mats have been quite as defined in 3D space. You know, I've got a lot of like hand-etched stuff and carved stuff, But this is something else, I think. Just visually. I mean, it really reminds me of, like, Dwarven Forge stuff in like, a really positive way. Like, the good aspects of those tiles. And there's a lot of them, frankly. I think that, you know, like, plaster tiles are a little too much for me. I think that they wind up just being a little bulky. I don't use them because it takes too much time. This is more inspired by Ultimate Dungeon Terrain by Dungeon Craft. But I really like the option of having, like, a thicker piece, but also having, like, the dry erase piece. Because that means that if I'm really, like, moving on the fly here, and, you know, I don't have anything physically to set on the tile other than the minis, I can always go back to the dry erase and say, hey, look, it's the whole room that I clearly prepared for. That's the one thing about crafting for, like, D&D that's very different from, like, cosplay. It's the idea that you need to be prepared to not be prepared. Like, if you only ever run games because you have all the stuff to run the games, you never run games. You just don't. And that's the harsh reality of it. Because even though I think something like this really adds to the fun and the immersion at the table, it's different, right? It's not necessarily that, like if I'm standing there at the table running a game, like Dungeon Master to the nines, just because, or rather I should say, I'm still the Dungeon Master and I'm still running a game even if I don't have terrain. Unlike cosplay, where if I'm not wearing a cosplay, I'm not wearing a cosplay. You know? And that's they're just different crafts in that way. A lot of my friends will tell you that the more cosplay stuff I started doing for you know, commission and whatnot, the more I started making terrain. Because ironically, I think that once your hobby becomes something that you get paid to do, you have to find a new hobby to decompress from your other hobbies. And ain't that just life? In other news, just totally off topic, it sounds like over on our Discord, for those of you who are inclined towards Pepakura like I am, it sounds like we're going to start holding sort of fun, friendly competitions over there. You know, a lot of people have started unfolding and re-unfolding and assisting with unfolding to the point where, you know, there's a lot of back and forth, and I think it would be really fun if we sat down and sort of once a month I threw out a model, and anybody who wants to take a stab at unfolding it for all of the bragging rights of me getting to say I like this one the best. I think that's what we're going to start doing. So if you're not at the Discord already, I highly recommend checking it out. Lots of talented makers over there, and lots of people who are just so willing to answer questions if you have them. There really is just a very pleasant community, and we love it. We love it. It's been very, very positive. One of the weirdest yet most positive motion in my, like, arc as somebody who is online has been creating a Discord and sort of building up that community over there, because it's a ton of fun. It really is. There we go. We're not going to go down the sides just because I want to let this top piece dry, and then I'll flip it and I'll do the sides. And that way I can also put a little bit on the inside as well. Here we go. Yeah, that's looking really fine. I like that. You know what? It's 6:55. I think we're going to have just enough time to basically get the topmost coat of sealant on this guy right here. And that'll be that for this stream. Thanks everybody who came out. This is, I know, not very much like my normal stuff, but it's super awesome that people are still pretty jazzed about all the general geekery happening on this channel. So thanks for joining me. I'll probably do more of this stuff in the future. I don't know, I'm really jazzed about this, about running Curse of STRAHD, because obviously I've never run Curse of STRAHD before. never run a campaign of this magnitude, and I know there's a lot of people in my group who are just really jazzed about it. So I'm hoping that this is a really positive experience for everybody, and that I don't, you know, fall flat on my face. I ran a lot of one-shots over this past year, just because it's a great way to keep the creative juices flowing, I think. And I'm hoping that people really enjoy not only the terrain, but the story and, you know, the directions I'm hoping to take it. Which is very fun. Nearly there now. Just a little bit of water and the last little bit of the sealant that we'll need for this first coat on top. Oh yeah, there we go. One thing I'm really excited about on this is I did manage to vary up the stone pattern enough that it does feel pretty free-flowing and fun, I'd say. I would say that this looks fun. Okay, try to even out the top here. Don't want any big globs hanging out. Nope, I think that's pretty good. Awesome. We'll dunk that in the water, leave this to dry, and thank you all so much for popping in. This has been really, really fun. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons over on Patreon. Y'all rock, and I really appreciate all the support. As always, I'll give you a little shout out. Unknown, Andrew Valente, Gabriel Lancia, Ken Angst, Sam the Man, Suda Props, Laura, Ruben, Wilson Ferreira, Matt G, K-Snake, and of course, Austin of AJ Plays Piano. Thank you guys, honestly, just so much for all your support. It means a ton to me. And thank you guys for showing up on stream, because it's not a stream if people aren't here. So thank you kindly. As always, I have been Jaden, here for Foam Armory. Please take care.